and then we'll just kind of pick up where we go.
Okay. Wow. So,
Are you going for it right now?
oh, okay.
I'm just asking. Got to get the pre-pod heebie-jeebies out. Let's see if that's in my angle. All right, that's the spot. Catch my breath. All right. I probably shouldn't put that on, but whatever. All right, so is this, what podcast are we doing today?
I think this is Maldo's Magic, Days in the East,
Okay.
a.k.a. when we come together, New Atlantis.
Oh, right.
New Atlantis, right?
Sorry.
It's all right. It's my job is to keep track of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just a creator, strictly a creator.
Yeah, I have to have things organized. This. I know this goes for this. I probably wouldn't put it for Maldo's Magic unless it was a planned show to have you on my show.
Right.
But it's the problem production, right? So, yeah, I think New Atlantis. It could be a combination of comb-over episodes. Got a couple books.
Books. Books are good.
And so I just wanted to start with New Year, right? 2025. It's always good in the new month, first of a month, right? Now this is the first of the month of a new year,
Right.
to light incense, cinnamon incense. So I have some here. We could light it. Cinnamon is known throughout the ancient times and spiritual circles to bring in prosperity, abundance, positivity. So that's why it's something you would light in the first of the month. So, got some special stuff.
Is that your brand? Is that the plug? Are we plugging the brand?
This is not my brand. This is actually a brand you could get from a record store in Sayville called Buddha Belly Records, where we sometimes record at. These things are great.
I'm a fan of the owner.
He is great.
It sounded like Tony the Tiger.
You're great. Okay, so we light this stuff up.
Hold it up for the benefit of prayer. Where do you think the practice of incense came from?
I consecrate this podcast with fire. Always got to get the high magic in there, And I'm using the card that was given on my third reading recently, if you were there, the Emperor.
Okay.
The future. So I figure that's a nice
Is
card
this
to
a
do.
fire hazard over here?
I think it should be good, right, brother? It should be good. Just as long as it doesn't touch, right?
So the practice of incense and inhibiting smoke into the space, I believe the proper terminology would be.
Some big words.
Where do you think that comes from? Do you have an origin?
I could speculate based on experience, with using it. Fire and smoke are the two things that aren't affected by gravity.
Okay.
Because fire comes up, right? Gravity doesn't keep fire down. It still goes up. And smoke. So those two things are unaffected by gravity. In the story of Exodus, the people from Egypt, they were led out by fire by day and smoke at night. So fire and smoke have always been connected to symbolism of the divine. Because it's something that it doesn't get stuck in earth, right? By gravity.
Say that again. So when they were not fleeing.
So when after Moses parted the Red Sea, right? So he left Egypt. This is for all you people that went to Bible school, right? He was leading his people to the Promised Land, and it is said, and you could read the Bible, that they were led by a pillar of smoke during the day and a pillar of fire during the night. And because fire and smoke are the two things that aren't affected by gravity. So incense is always, when you light incense, it's a symbol of fire.
So also, like, just me listening to you interpreting it in my own way.
Okay.
Fire is used as a guide and smoke as well. If you metaphorically go back to the story you just... let me get that on there. The story that you just spoke of, it kind of brought them to the Promised Land, right? So, I mean, thoughts, actions, intentions.
Yeah, it led them,
right?
It was leading them on the way there. It took them 40 years to get there.
Of course.
So I don't know if it was, it could also be symbolic too as well, but that's what that was said.
Why do you think it took them 40 years to get there? Now, I haven't read the Bible front to back. I'm familiar with a lot of the stories. I'm not a traditionalist at this point in time in my life where I'm like, I know every story word by word, and I think the most of the people out there really don't. And also depending on what version of the Bible you're reading. But
Okay.
what do you think those 40 years did to them prior to them entering the Promised Land?
Well, this is the thing. Since it took 40 years, the generation that left wasn't the generation that made it.
Right.
So because from reading Exodus and honestly, if you within Masonry, if you actually venture into the Scottish Rite really is a good place. There's multiple degrees and where you learn about all the different stories of the Bible. That's why I love it, right? So it's like all the stories I grew up with in action. So, but basically, 40 days and the number 40 is very symbolic within the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the 40 days and 40 nights, right, of Jesus's time in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how long the Ark of Moses, Noah's Ark was out for 40 days, right? So that number you hear a lot within the Bible, so it means something. But basically, 40 years is what? 4 decades.
Well, what I'm kind of, not to cut you off, but not to.
I'm always getting like super deep. So.
No, too deep. Come back on the shallow side of the pool for a little bit. What I'm saying is, I'm looking at human nature, right? So, like you said, the generation that entered the Promised Land wasn't the one that left. So think about all those habits, all of that, the mentality of the generation that left Egypt, right? They spent all this time in the desert, and in a way, they kind of shedded all of those things that kind of that thinking and the mentality and however they survived in that desert kind of space. The new generation that survived in the desert, imagine lack of food, lack of water, lack of resources, all of those things that kind of we take for granted. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we even sacrifice freedoms for. We sacrifice freedom for comfort. So surviving in the desert, right? That old generation dies off. The new generation knows what not having much feels like. Now you enter the Promised Land with this different mentality, a mentality of appreciation, of not having enough, of just really, really, really embracing the blessing of having a home. Do you think that was programmed in a way for that to kind of shed old habits and come into a new space with those new habits or a newfound appreciation of abundance?
Well, just to circle back a little bit, basically, so if you trace the stories, they were supposedly in bondage, in servitude,
Mm-hmm.
when they were in Egypt. Some say that it was really during the time of Pharaoh Akhenaten who changed the national religion to monotheism, and that like Moses was really like his high priest, and he was leaving them out there because after Akhenaten was died, the old regime, the old priests took back because they were polytheistic. So they switched the national religion back to the old ways of we have multiple gods because that's how they used to control. So some theories, Sigmund Freud wrote a good book about it, From Moses to Monotheism.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses, when he left, the people probably really weren't, this is my opinion based on my research. I don't want to offend anyone, right? The people probably really weren't in servitude as like what we think today. They were meeting in servitude to a different way of worshiping the divine, right? So they left with Moses to continue the worship of monotheism, of one God.
Right.
This is when it started, really, right? We get that from the Jewish people. So when they left, along the way, like you said, they're going in the desert, and they had no food. They were living in luxury in Egypt. So they were complaining, bro. They were complaining every time, like, we're going there. We left Egypt for this, to be in the desert, to have no food when they lived lavishly.
It was not so much lavishly, but meals and stuff was it was a guarantee.
Yeah,
Shelter was a guarantee. It might not have been what somebody may have wanted, but it's like jail in a way, right? You're guaranteed shelter, you're guaranteed meals, you're guaranteed a preset schedule. Like you can almost plan, right, for whatever was coming next because it was such a routine. So you went into something being known into the unknown, right? In
yeah.
a way, is what I'm trying to
Yeah,
get at.
so and now like think about so if you really think about it, look at it logically. There's no way that servants, right? They were in servitude, left a country to start a new country that was and built one of the world's famous temples, right? Solomon's temple. Solomon was known to be rich, David too. So logically you have to understand that these people were probably people of the royal class. That left, because they were in that faith of the new monotheistic religion.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I don't want to debate that because that might be triggering to some people.
So not trying to trigger.
I wouldn't say so much royal class, which again it may be. It might be
a little
depending.
more well off.
But definitely knowledgeable on industrious tasks.
Yeah.
Things that are necessities for culture and civilization to exist. But yeah, to go into a place and utilize the land and to build something as lavish and to have knowledge of, you had to be mentally of some type of royalty or having a gift, for lack of better words.
And just so you know, the land wasn't just sitting there; it was inhabited by the Canaanites. So now you remember. Now they left a place and they took 40 years to get there. When they get there, the land was already inhabited. There was already a kingdom there. So they actually took over that kingdom. So a lot of the Old Testament was a lot of wars.
Yeah.
It's a lot of struggle. It's not like what we think, like Moses left 40 days and then this land was just there, green pastures, and now they started building. No,
Yeah.
it was already an empire there, already an established people there. So it's just interesting when you actually go deep into the stories. They're not fairy tales. There's some crazy shit happen.
And before we go on into the rabbit hole, just understand none of us are qualified, or I shouldn't say qualified. Yeah, we're not qualified to speak on subjects of religion or, Freemasonry or anything esoteric. This is just strictly our interpretation. This is us being around certain subjects and just having great conversation about it. So don't attack us now or 40 years from now. Back then you said this. This is just two people sitting down having a chat about it. So again, don't take it for fact. Do your own research.
Yep.
We're just really talking about things that interest us and trying to guide others to oh, nice.
I was going to see if we go live.
That was my TikTok.
Oh, okay.
What's going on here? Yeah, so if you have any interest in any of the subjects that we spoke about, or you want some type of reference, Jonathan, you're killing me here.
I was trying to go live. I was trying to figure out how to do
okay.
it.
I can mute it.
We'll figure out later. Later.
Yeah, if you have any interest, you could shoot me a DM or Jonathan a DM, and we can provide resources or certain books on the subject of the stuff that we're talking about. Because this is not just us sitting in front of ancient aliens and watching the show, and although it is a great show, but this is like there's books and stuff that we read, or certain speeches or memoirs that we'll read and we'll speak about, and that's where a lot of the subject matter that we talk about comes from. So.
Yeah, a good book is like I mentioned before is that I've read is Sigmund Freud's book. Sigmund Freud is like the father of modern psychology, right? It's and the book he wrote was From Moses to Monotheism, and that tells a story from his research, and his religion was Jewish, right? Not sure he was practicing it because he was a psychologist, more into the science, but in that book he talks about what transpired and around the time, and a lot of this stuff connects to my research on Rosicrucianism,
Right?
And Rosicrucianism and how they follow their first Grand Master was Pharaoh Akhenaten, and they kind of correlate. it does not that the Bible verifies this, because the Bible says a different pharaoh, right?
Right.
But some of Sigmund Freud's research, some Rosicrucian manifestos that I've been privy to read and check out and study, kind of put them together and using some logic. This it was Egypt is a common denominator, right? Egypt was a polytheistic religion, like place, so it means they believe in multiple god forms.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a pharaoh historically that was recorded that started believing in one god in Egyptian times. And then basically how, if you correlate that with Moses, they believed in monotheism and then they left. So, it could make sense. And then the practice of circumcision
Mm-hmm.
was actually an Egyptian practice, which now it even ties even closer. So why would the Jewish people practice a Egyptian rite?
Right.
Because they were Egyptian. Based on some of my research, Sigmund Freud's book, and some other scholars is from where I could kind of deduce that information.
Forgive my ignorance or
That's okay.
familiarity with the older times, especially in Egyptian belief.
Yeah.
When you get into polytheism, right?
Yes.
That their belief in gods, there was still a hierarchy, right? Or was every god just equal?
So they had a god for different things. So they had the mother god was Isis. They had her husband was Osiris. So that's where those are two of the main like king and queen of the Egyptian gods.
Mm-hmm.
But then they had gods like Nuit. Nuit was the naked god of the sky. That the depictions of her are all around all like the whole earth, right? And basically because it just depicts the open sky.
Right.
So and how we know is when you go into King Tut's, that's where we got a lot of the stuff from. When we went to King Tut's gravesite in Egypt, basically you see in a sarcophagus above it, you see the blue goddess of Nuit over it. And when I went to the Rosicrucian temple in San Jose, that we have a replica of it there in our museum.
Oh wow.
It's one of the I think the third biggest Egyptian museums on the West Coast, where a lot of kids go there for field trips. But they have a replica of King Tut's whole burial site, like how it was. Like you go through tunnels, they made exactly
That's
how
crazy.
and it was great. So you see all the figures. Then they believe in the afterlife. So there was Anubis. He was the jackal-headed god, which we see on like the World Tarot card. He's the one. I mean, on the Wheel of Fortune, he weighs the heart. The heart of man has to be lighter than a feather, meaning all your actions. So to get into the afterworld. So there's multiple gods for different things out there. So I don't know if one was above the other, but the main like king and queen of them was like Isis and Osiris were like the ones that kind of ruled on this
yeah.
plane. Yeah.
Were all the Egyptian gods birthed from those two, or
No,
how did that happen?
I think there was excuse me, there was Atan. I think Atan, if I'm not saying it right, but he symbolized as the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So there was basically, like you could say, like it's similar to the Greek stories of Kronos and the Titans, the ones that immediately kind of birthed like Zeus and those gods, and then demigods. So similar in Egyptian, there was like Most High, right? They created everything. They were kind of hard to touch, and then from them emanated all the other gods, and the main was like Osiris and that, and but there was, I think, a total about around 40 gods for different things, and some had like basically Thoth, the book of Thoth, a common one. He was like an ibis head, and he was the god of wisdom. So each god had something different that they were in control of.
So like you going into the work site, you punch a clock, and it's time to build the pyramids. What type? I'm just asking.
Yeah,
What type of practice do you think would happen? Would they pray to Thoth about having the ability to perform perform to the highest caliber and honor that god in their day's work? What do you think a life in an Egyptian pyramid builder was like?
See, the thing about it is we don't know if the Egyptians were the ones that actually built the pyramids. Some say that when they came to that land, the pyramids were already there. So there's really no evidence. There's a lot of speculations, right? You see stuff on TikTok and videos on how they built it and this and the anti-gravity stuff, but there's no like concrete proof that the Egyptians were the ones that actually built the pyramids. I know this might affect people too.
Right.
That some say they were already there, and some books you read about Thoth, he was an Atlantean, they say, and he came from Atlantis, and he gave them the technology to build them. Whether you believe in these myths or not, Thoth could represent, divine, wisdom that they were, that the priests had access to or something. But, it's interesting how today we can't replicate the pyramid. We can't build them today. So with all the stuff that we have, we could build skyscrapers, but we can't build pyramids. So,
Well, I mean, you can lose knowledge, and then with that knowledge, you lose the ability to create the technology. If I go back to Egyptian times and I hand them this USB, and I'm like, replicate this, they'll have no clue because there's such a gap in between. So I resonate with that, though. There's nothing to say that they didn't have help or that we didn't have that knowledge to do it. There's even been speculation I've seen about pyramids on Mars and stuff like that.
wow.
Who knows if we were interplanetary, I believe the word would be.
Well, that brings you
Species.
that brings you to the movie. Remember that movie in the 90s, right? Stargate.
There you go.
And some say that they have found similar stargates that look like that in Babylonia. So that's like in modern time Iraq, and in Egypt. That there has been. We don't know if they were used for that, but it's a high possibility, right?
I think the most important thing is just to approach any subject with an open mind. You can't just say, "Hey, this is what it says. That's what it is." There's always going to be, something that contradicts or that influences or that kind of says, "Okay, this is how it happened." Then you try to replicate it, and if it's proved, then obviously that's the way that group did it. But you never know. In short, you never know. Do you believe in Atlantis?
So I believe in Atlantis. Yeah, I don't. Sometimes I don't know if it was like an actual place or it was what the world was like before the flood, because there's conclusive evidence. I've seen there's some Graham Hancock did some stuff. He has some episodes on Netflix about that, the Great Flood. Basically maybe it was what the world was before the flood. Like it was Atlantis. Maybe it was a thriving place where they had set technology, and then the Great Flood, kind of washed a lot of the stuff away. Maybe something happened where some would say that they abused the technology, which if you look now, we're kind of abusing technology too, from the A bomb to where we have the power to create, but it ends up being powers of devastation. It's.
I mean, as the world gets smaller with travel and technology and all those things, you find there is a select group of higher influence or higher control that makes the decisions for the greater whole, right?
Okay.
And you see it now. You have governments where you have one person representing the greater whole, and then you have countries that are all influenced by that. So yeah, you can just have one guy that says, "Hey, push the button," and then a lot of things that happen. But
oh yeah,
I mean, to circle back to the flood and all of those things that happened in the past, that historically you have cultures from all over the world that kind of shed light on this event happening. That's always interested me. And then you got other places where, like in Turkey, that underground tunnel system where they had air and everything to support large amounts of people. Like you have to be able to study mass groups to see what they need to survive in that type of environment. Also, why go underground? Naturally, humans thrive on light, thrive on vegetation, and seeing the sun and being above ground. What would induce somebody to take shelter for a long period of time? Because imagine how long it took to create something like that. And then to say we're going to live here for a little bit, and it's got to support a whole society and a whole civilization of people. Because I think there was like 30,000. Forgive, that's not an accurate number, but it was in the thousands of people that this underground cave kind of fit. I don't know. You're gonna pull up the.
Yeah,
We gotta fact check that
start.
one.
No, start getting like
We gotta fact check.
like the
Fact
Joe
check
Rogan
this.
show. We'll start pulling stuff up
Yeah, I
underground.
don't have a Jamie yet. It's not
I
in
know,
the budget.
I know Globally Techie is one popular one in Turkey. It's not, but it's not that one.
No.
Underground, what's underground civilization? I guess it's called.
I guess. I mean, this guy was doing a renovation in his kitchen or something, and he knocked down a wall, and there was like a hole in the wall, and when he went into the wall, it was like
Okay,
a crazy elaborate tunnel system.
It's Derin Kuji.
Yep, that's it.
Known as Elen Gubi. Gubi is okay. It's an ancient multi-level underground city near the modern town of Derinkuyu in the Nevşehir province, Turkey, extending to a depth of approximately 85 meters, which is 280 feet. How tall are skyscrapers? It is large enough to have sheltered as many as 20,000 people.
There you go.
Together with their livestock and food stores. It is the largest excavated underground city in Turkey and is one of several underground complexes found throughout Cappadocia. Wow.
Now, 20,000 people to all agree, yeah, we're gonna live down here. That's quite a feat, And what were they hiding from? What were they running from? What happened at that place in time for 20,000 people to say we're gonna be down? This is our new home.
And I wonder when it was around what time, if they I know it was found between the 8th and 7th century of BCE. So it's interesting to see when it was, like, when they created this. Like, think about it. This was in stone, so how long did it take them?
Right. And you got to excavate that. Where does that stuff go? All of that dirt that was excavated, where did it go? You had to have a group of people. There had to be plans. You had to understand that we're risking a lot of people under here, Is the earth above us going to support, all of these holes? There's Swiss cheese in the mountain. So, what happens? Also air, knowledge of how to get air into that space. Well, it's crazy. How do you get air down there? To know that you even need that.
Well, they have basically shafts.
Mm-hmm.
You create shafts that help with airflow. Same thing like the pyramids had those too. They had air shafts.
Mm-hmm.
You have to always build air shafts, but it's pretty crazy.
And even like how'd you illuminate down there? Because I think similar to the pyramids, there's no like carbon deposits or anything on the wall that would have showed that a torch was lit down there, or you had fire illuminating the space. So you need sufficient oxygen to feed the fire, and then also too, whatever the fire is burning, used to burn, whether it's wheat or any other thing that's flammable, that's going to be burned, and you're going to have traces of that on the ceiling. You don't find that anywhere.
Oh, really?
Nope, not even in the pyramids.
So it's saying, what was their light source then? Was there electricity back then?
You never know. You never know.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's quite a rabbit hole we just went down.
Yeah, that was good. I think that was a definitely a nice one. Nice one opening into the new year. A little biblical Egyptian, and then
Just shaking off the rust.
a little turkey, a little. But it's interesting. I think a lot of the times we think that we're most advanced now, when they were pretty advanced. Like you said, they could organize that many people to do that and to stay alive, and how long it took to do that, in 280 feet down.
Yeah,
that's a feat.
I mean, it's tough. I work in the city. I'm in the subways. I'm in a place. I think that the new Grand Central Madison's 360 feet down, and
Wow.
to support a workforce down there, and keep that space, with fresh air and stuff like that. it's tough. You know, you need fans and stuff pressurizing certain spaces. You need to exhaust air, I should say.
Yeah.
A lot of things can happen down there. You got trains in and out. You got, you know, just people breathing. Where are you gonna,
Wow.
you know, get rid of the
There's no trees down
there's
there,
nothing.
right?
There's nothing. So, you know, I know how hard it is for that to exist. I could imagine, you know, in a mountain somewhere in the Middle East.
Yeah, in Turkey, right?
How do you make that happen? You know, in certain places, you'll sit there and you're talking and you fall asleep a little bit because there's lack of oxygen. You know,
Wow.
when it comes to smoke entering a space, you want certain corridors and hallways. You want fresh air pressurizing those spaces to kind of keep smoke and stuff out. You know,
Right.
so yeah, that all of those factors come into play when you have a large amount of people occupying a space that a large amount of people are not supposed to be in. You know,
Yeah.
so the knowledge to be able to construct a space like that, there had to be other spaces where you try and fail. This is not something they got right on the first time, you know?
You don't think so?
No. No. Same thing with the pyramids. You know how many times pyramids probably collapsed? You have to have knowledge of something to be able to perfect it. And what we're seeing is something that withstood the test of time
Mhm.
because it was perfected. So how many times prior to that did failure happen? You know?
Well, think about it. If they got their knowledge of that from Atlantis, if Atlantis existed, and Atlantis just meant, you know, a place or a world that reached a zenith of intellectual capacity, right?
Zenith.
Yeah. So meaning if Pythagoras, all these guys, they knew, a lot of them went to Egypt, right? Plato went to Egypt. So if the mathematics of building, right, and of right angles, right, horizontals, perpendiculars, you know, was something that the Greeks knew about, the Romans knew about, you know, but where they get it from? And if you study philosophy, all the great philosophers went to Egypt, so because they knew that the knowledge was there, right? So it's possible that where they get their knowledge from Atlantis,
Atlantis.
or from another civilization that had it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, to even if it was Egypt, Atlantis,
Samaria,
Martians,
Samaria, maybe.
like it, that had to start somewhere.
Correct.
Unless there was a divine creator that said, "Here's knowledge passed on." Which, how many stories of that have you seen? I mean, there's the invention of the telephone, right? Or I'm sorry, the telegram, right? Was Alexander Graham Bell. We might have to. I'm a couple years out of elementary school, so, and it's New York State education, so forgive me, but there was two guys that invented that at the same time.
The
But
telephone.
yeah, I mean, but you had and these are people that had no connection to each other, and they were so far on opposite sides of the world.
Okay.
And you know that same idea popped into their heads, and they made it come to fruition. Where does that knowledge, that sacred knowledge, come from? Was it something that's just up there that, you know, an idea says this guy is worthy to execute this and make it happen? You know, is our ideas living entities?
A good book. You ever heard of The Secret?
Yes.
Law of Attraction. So
I never read it or
I
watched
recommend
it,
watch the movie and then read the book. It's really good. It's really good. It's on learning like the law of attraction, but they once again take their information from the Kabbalion. The Kabbalion is the Hermetic laws, which was the laws from Egypt. There's 7 universal laws. But where I was going with that, there's another book called The World Is Yours, was basically explaining to you how to use the secret, how to use the law of attraction, right? And it basically states that there's something called the 99 monkey syndrome, 99 monkeys. So what happens is that if one monkey learns how to open a coconut by cracking it open in an island, and then if 99 monkeys learn how to do it, monkeys around the world will now learn how to do that because
Really?
they download it from their collective consciousness.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So for, you know, just to circle back to what I said before, Alexander Graham Bell and Elijah Gray
Okay.
are two people who are often associated with the invention of the telephone. In 1876, Bell was awarded the first U.S. patent for the telephone, and Gray was an established inventor in the telegraph field who filed a patent application for the telephone on the same day as Graham Bell. Gray claimed that the liquid transmitter in his patent was his idea, but Bell's patent was granted instead. You know, and that's politics. But
Yeah.
apparently these people, they weren't in the same circles. They weren't in the same groups.
Mm-hmm.
It was just an idea that they came, they brought to life. And obviously, you know, credit was issued to Graham Bell, but that stuff happens all the time. How many times, you know, you might say something and somebody says, oh, you took that from this person. And no, I didn't. Or you heard that from a movie. And no, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you said, that collective consciousness, I believe exists. I believe it's like a grab bag, a piñata in the sky.
Okay.
And, you know, if you're in the game, you have a chance to grab at it. If you're a worthy person, you might grab the idea and execute it, or you might sleep on it and somebody else comes up with it. You know, I've seen that before too. There's plenty of times where I'm thinking about something and, you know, I just sit with it too long, paralysis by analysis, and I'm sitting with it, and then somebody else does it and they have high success with it. I'm like, damn, I missed that opportunity because I wasn't worthy.
Yeah, because the divine emanation of the intellect, right? It's like the cloud, right? So if there's thoughts and ideas that are out there in the ether, right, from a collective consciousness, or from the infinite void, it looks for the person, I feel like, that's gonna take it to the finish line, and it probably goes to different people, right? And whatever your limiting beliefs are, or whatever, you know, you have about yourself. Maybe you have behaviors of starting and stopping stuff, or being procrastination, like you might be saying. And now someone else who overcome all that stuff already in a past incarnation, or they just, you know, have a different upbringing of just structure, right? And maybe they're competitive. The idea comes to them and they see it, they get that aha moment and they run with it. And then you see, you know, 2 weeks later, wait, I thought I had that idea.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not like it wasn't your idea. It was a collective conscious idea. And this goes to touching on the tarot card, the star, which connects to the Hebrew letter Zadi, which means meditating, fishing, meaning all these ideas are out there. But if you're not meditating, if you're not being receptive to it, you know, and if you don't then have all the tools within your mental fortitude, your emotional fortitude,
Network connections and stuff like that
to make it happen, then yeah, so the next person's going to do it, because it's either way, it's going to get manifested.
So do you think that God has a blueprint out there, or like a godly library that's just out there, and you just have to be in tune enough to be able to check out books and obviously read the book, come up with a plan? Oh, we have some literature here.
Well,
go ahead.
According to Kabbalah, I had to. So I brought the Tree of Life today, okay, so everybody can see it, and we'll put it up later. Basically, this is the emanation, right? So within the Hebrew mysticism, okay. So here, take a look. As I got 2 copies.
Oh, nice.
So, sorry, I'm going to move around a lot. So if we look in the big page, right, up top is a crown. This is like divine emanation, comes from here, right? And then it goes down to wisdom. This is called a lightning flash. And then it goes over to understanding, right? We need to have understanding to understand how to use the wisdom.
Right.
And then, you know, it goes down to mercy, severity, beauty, and all the way down to the manifested realm, the kingdom. This bottom is where we are. So meaning if this is the emanation from God, then yes, you know, we're in like these regions down here. So, and if you consider knowledge up here, Da'ath, that's the invisible one, it's up there. So it does come from the divine mind of God, which is in us too, because we were created in the image of God. But we have to like learn, we go to school for like this analytical knowledge. So we learn a lot about stuff with our senses that we could see, right? Taste and touch.
Earthly realm stuff.
Analytical. So this information is not something that, you know, we ever learn in grade school or even college. And even and if you do a traditional Kabbalah, the Jewish way, they won't let you start training until you're 40.
Right.
So it wouldn't even never then the young guys, kids would never learn this stuff.
Mm.
Now in this day and age, we you have the internet, so you could learn anything on the top of the click of a button. But yeah, if you use that as a roadmap to understanding, and then based on learning the Bible and the Tree of Life, and you put the stuff together, all the stories, it's a blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
right? That God bestowed on the prophets that wrote it down in the Bible, and by using different key words and stuff, and then we were able to put it together and use it for like a working system.
Yeah, it's amazing how this is a blend of admiration,
Mm-hmm.
action, and thought, and how to kind of breed them all together to have a finished product. Wisdom and knowledge. What's the difference? Because I see it's two different spaces here.
Yeah, so according to Kabbalah, there's 10 sephirots on here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So 10 sephirots, so we'll put that up later, right? So knowledge is considered the invisible sephiroth. It's not an actual sephiroth. That's why it's like dotted lines. So it's not a traditional emanation of God, right? They say that knowledge is like from the holy, like wisdom is considered the Hokmah, like the divine father, and understanding Bina, the divine mother, like for their union, and now they have knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
So, but wisdom is basically understanding, when to use the knowledge, right?
Got it.
They say, and understanding is what could use the knowledge, right, and create something. So meaning the wisdom is the male part, right? We have that raw energy,
Mm-hmm.
but we can't create without the female part that it's restricted. That's why Saturn connects to this, because you need the restriction of the womb, right,
Mm-hmm.
for those ideas to germinate and then be something.
Birth, yeah.
That's
birthing.
understanding. The women's, they have that divine feminine is the understanding part that could create
Even
the
like
forms.
just understanding, right? So you may have wisdom, but in order to communicate your
Mm-hmm.
wisdom, that's knowledge as well. Now, severity. How does this tie into this whole system?
Yeah, so now with the Tree of Life, there's 3 pillars, right? So there's a pillar of severity, that's on that side where you see it. There's a pillar of mercy on the other side, and the pillar of beauty is in the center. So you see 3 pillars.
Mm-hmm.
The pillar of severity is a black pillar. Pillar of mercy is usually seen white in some depictions, and this one they have it as gold is the one in the middle. Some depictions it's gray because it means balancing. But basically, severity is like the Mars energy. Understanding right now, if you see someone about to hurt, a young child or something, you have to know when to use that energy to protect them.
Also, severity is more like a scale, right? You would say?
Severity is more like learning how to use your martial energy, right? The Mars energy to protect oneself or others from evil or from getting injured. Unchecked, severity could be abusing people, bullying people, right? Like if if that energy isn't checked, you could be hurting people, cutting people off, giving them that could be like the
I think. Well, from
Yeah.
my interpretation,
Mhm.
right? Severity also too is a tool of self-preservation, right?
Okay.
When to withhold and when to act based on the ability to self-preserve. Is this going to cause injury to myself or another? Like think about certain Masonic teachings,
Yeah.
where if you observe something,
Mhm.
you're obligated to act as long as it doesn't cause any injury to yourself or anything to that kind of subject.
So you're saying severity also kind of means knowing when to use it.
Right, because look what's right above it is understanding, right?
Ah, okay.
Splendor also too.
Okay.
Like there's a fine line between splendor and then abuse, right?
I see.
you know, because you can engage in drinking, right? There's a certain part where it's like same action leads to too much, you know, abundance
Okay.
isn't too much, right? So, you know, splendor and stuff like that, there has to be some type of understanding. There has to be a severity to it where you know and you can understand when it's time to dial certain things back, right? Having that balance, the 24-inch gauge. You know, there's all of those things are necessary for a fruitful life. But too much of any one of those things is taking from anything else, right? Am I understanding splendor correctly,
That's,
or?
yeah, I want to circle back before because by you saying that, it got me to look at what they have written on the side. It says the Sephiroth, equals a vessel, right, and represents an energy. Energies across from each other balance one another. So severity without mercy is cruelty.
Exactly.
Mercy without severity is weakness. I just thought I wanted
That's sick.
because you can't speak about one without the other.
Exactly. That's why they're all connected. And it just, for me, you know, on the right are endpoints to information. Wisdom is the acquisition of, you know, a lifelong practice, right? Or just knowledge, information, stuff like that. Mercy is you had to have witnessed something atrocious to understand what mercy is. You had to witness somebody being spared, right? Or understanding when in an argument when enough is enough, and all right, I'm beating a dead horse, or this person understands what's going on. So, like in an argument, you want to have a little bit of escape room for your opponent to leave and join your side, right? You don't want to you don't want to embarrass. The object is what's right, not who's right. So mercy is allowing the person to self-preserve, right, in a way, and still maintain their integrity and stuff like that. As long as you understand the severity of, you know, whatever you're discussing was understood, or you know, just the goal was had. Think about a sports game. You know, you're killing them by 50 points. Are you still going to go that hard? Are you going to exhibit some mercy? That way that person or that team leaves with some type of integrity still.
Yeah, or dignity, right?
Right, dignity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, these are all...
So you said, sorry to cut you off,
Yeah.
you said observed, right? But are these observed, or are they innate within us? Is it something that's within all of us, right? Or is it something that we need to observe? Like, do you have to observe someone balanced with their severity, or someone showing mercy and been able to show mercy? Or is it something innate in all of us, like the ability to use and live all these virtues?
Well, I think we have, you know, everybody has the ability to act morally high, you know. That's something that's programmed into us, the goodness of our nature. But I think that's singular. When you get into society or culture or any type of small group of people, or even on a one-on-one, I think it has to be observed and learned and brought out, because there has to be a feeling. Like, life is a feeling thing. So you have to have feelings to go with the observation, and then some type of process has to occur that brings this out. Like, oh, I like this. When you join sports, you know, you observe a game, you practice the game, you partake in the game, you win, you lose, or just the experience of enjoyment says it brings it out. I want to partake in this a little bit more. So the feeling of being able to walk out of a situation, expressing mercy, and seeing somebody else walking out with dignity, the respect that's kind of the byproduct of that encounter is you know, the innateness of it, the observance of it creates a repetitive thing where it's like, okay, this is part of my character now. But I think, you know, language is language. That's
Yeah.
the thing that kind of bonds people
Okay.
together. But prior to language, which is something that we kind of created, You had to observe things. Like, you know, the helicopter. The helicopter, it was invented by observing nature.
Yeah.
Flight, observing nature. Anything that you see nowadays, observing nature. So to sit and be able to see the beauty of nature
Okay.
and harness it by invention or whatever else it may be, that's the observation. So you have an innate skill that's in there to kind of harness things to for the benefit of man or for the benefit of the whole. But you have to appreciate what's going on around you and be here,
Yeah.
not in the future, not in the past, but
Yep.
be here, be present. And as you observe it, you could put it into practice. I'm still working on that one, but
Okay. Yeah. I mean, but it could also go the other way. People could observe the wrong way,
right.
the reversal of these, right?
I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
They just lit a lady on fire in the subway.
Oh my goodness.
You know, she was lit on fire and nobody helped her. From what I've seen and from the information presented to me.
She didn't do it herself. Someone did it.
Yeah, somebody lit her on fire.
Uh-huh.
Forgive, you know, the vulgar conversation, how I kind of took a dark spill. But first thing people do is they pull out their cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
You know, nobody's helping, and that could have been avoided. I'm sure there was a whole bunch of things that happened prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the foresight. You know, somebody saw like, whoa, what's going on here? Nobody stopped it. Nobody recognized the severity of the situation. And not to laugh about, you know,
Yeah.
the occurrence, but it's just how everything ties into, you know, this. And, you know, the way I see it, we're all radios, right?
Yep. Okay.
Some radios are turned off. Some radios, even when they're turned on, it's just static. You have to be in tune to pick up the radio station.
Yeah.
And what station are you listening to? Does it resonate with who you are as a character? Some people listen to rock. Some people listen to rap. Some people listen to the news. What are you in tune with in life?
And it's like, exactly, I like that. What are you in tune with in life? But it's also, I feel like, teaching people how to get in tune.
Yeah.
Like, I think society today, you know, a lot of us lost that. You know, at one point, it was, you know, people we used, you know, the church, you know, to help out. And then throughout the ages, you know, different denominations, different faiths, some people walked away, right?
Mm-hmm.
They, you know, but it's like teaching practical ways to gain that insight through, you know, prayer, meditation, contemplation. I feel like those are three main things that you could help people to have that frequency attuned to that divine station where you get that. It's, I think I read something recently. Sometimes it's not about all the stuff that you do, right? It's more about how receptive you are to it, and how you make. If you're, you know, out shopping every day, you're working, watching TV, Netflix, at the bar, you're not putting yourself in situations to be receptive to the radio frequencies of the divine that are gone.
There's no meditation, like you
No.
said. There's no prayer, and I think that's what essentially religion was for.
Yeah.
It was moral law of the land, and of course it varied from location to location, and the interest of the greater whole. But you have to have something out there that kind of resonates with everybody, you know, and you have to have that wanting for the group to do better. You have to have a system of empowerment. And I think when a lot of religions, and again, I'm not qualified to speak on religions, this is just what I've observed. When you have these systems make the change from empowerment to dependence, that's where the gray area happens. More interpretation happens. More interpretation to benefit. You know, I'm going to pray because I want this thing. Instead of I want to, you know, you're going to pray for the ability to gain resources, right?
Yeah.
There was a commercial I saw, and the guy's like, I wish I had $1 million. And when he looks outside, there's 1 million deer in his front yard, you know. But that's what it comes down to. If you're wishing for strength, and again you're wishing for strength, 9 times out of 10, God is going to give you things to make you stronger.
Oh, yeah.
Not just strength.
Yeah,
It comes.
nice new gym set, right?
Right. I want cake. You're going to get all the ingredients for cake. People don't want to step in the kitchen and start cooking. So, that's where Solomon was so pivotal when he said, I wish for understanding.
Yeah.
And when you have that understanding, you could put a lot more things together than just that selfish thing that you want that might just give you what? What is it going to give you? A certain situation, instant gratification. You want to be a vessel. You want to be a vehicle for light and love. You want to be able to be a walking blessing. You want to be the lamp in the room. But sometimes the brighter you shine, the darker the shadows, my friend. That's a bar.
Okay, all right. That's
sorry.
No, it's good. He was cooking right there. He had the pot open. He had the stove. He was mixing the sauce. Getting the spaghetti ready. Yeah. So wow. But
he's downloading right now.
But
buffering.
But it doesn't mean that you don't want to dim your light, right? Some say some people dim my light, but can your light really be dim, or is your light really bright?
Well, that's splendor, right? Is it?
What happened?
Splendor? Because it depends. How are you shining? Are you shining selfishly, or are you shining in a way to guide? Is your light focused, or is it just bright? The sun is a bright light. You can't go to it. It's too hot. It's a place that even volcanoes, like you got temperature and things need to be harnessed. They need to be disciplined in the way they're served. They have to be manageable. So yeah, you could shine too bright. Are you egotistically going into a conversation and just dropping facts, or are you reading the room? Are you understanding what the situation needs? Yeah, a lot goes inside. With great power comes great restraint and responsibility.
So then it's all about, reading the room is very important, discerning. Like sometimes some people don't.
You're a salesman?
Sometimes people don't understand when they overstay their welcome, too. That's a big thing. Like sometimes, where, okay, all right, now I've said enough, or I've experienced enough, or my presence has been here, to a point where I don't need to stay longer. Like, you don't have to always be the person that stays till when the lights go on at the place, right? No. Closing it down. That's why, like, sometimes purposely I'll leave because I'm like, all right, cool,
Nobody's laughing at my jokes, right? No, I'm just saying that's why you leave.
Well, no, it's understanding it, reading the room to the point of not overstaying your welcome.
Right.
Some people they tend to overstay their welcome, meaning, they come around and they, it's good to say stuff, but sometimes maybe they're doing a little too much. You follow where it's not as constructive, as it's just more, there might be there for the wrong reasons, right? Intentionally. So what I'm saying, use discernment to know when to be able to exit gracefully and not overstay your welcome.
Yeah, I mean, it holds true. That holds true with anything, because look at us in America. We use the bathroom in clean water. Some of our toilet water is cleaner than some of the water anywhere else, right? So I'm serious. So abundance can be something that's now taken for granted. Okay. So too much of a blessing is not a blessing anymore because it's fruitful here. I'm not appreciative of it. This is something that's a necessity for life. Yeah. People have to go miles and miles and miles to get dirty water, and we take it for granted here. There's and that holds true for certain people. If you're in the wrong situation, or you're in a situation where your presence is just too much, you're not going to be appreciated as much. Things have to have restraint. If you're always helping other people out, and then you don't have anybody to help you out, you make yourself too available. And with that, a lot of things go with that, but you might be hindering your ability to help somewhere else, So yeah, just navigating, harnessing, and focusing your intentions, your intentions and
Hmm.
your attention.
Okay.
It establishes a value of your presence. You know, when you walk into a room, oh, I haven't seen you in a long time. What's going on? We were talking about the other day, or actually today.
Yeah.
Attention is currency, so you have to dispose of it accordingly. And
Okay.
you know, with adulthood, that happens more and more. Your understanding. That's where maturity comes in. You know, maturity and age is far from related. You know.
Yeah, just because you're older doesn't mean you're more mature, right?
Right.
And it's cool. A good segue to I wanted to touch on what the tarot card is for 2025,
Hmm.
because it really ties into what you're saying, not overstaying your welcome, you know, knowing when, right, to get attention and not basically. So there's something called the theosophical reduction. I don't know if you ever heard of it before.
Mm-mm.
So that what that means is that you take the numbers. If it's 2025, you add 2 and 0, you get 2, right? Add 2 and 2, you get 4. Add 4 and 5, and you get 9. So now we just reduce those numbers down to a single digit, and that number now you connect to what number is the tarot card of that.
Got it.
So the number 9, this is to me the tarot card for the season, is going to be the Hermit for this year.
Okay.
Number
Oh, the
9.
hermit.
Yeah. So that ties into what's the Hermit about. The Hermit is somebody that has learned to go within. He learned to go within. He's on the top of the mountain. He's shining the light down for the people that are climbing the holy mountain. So it's understanding that, yes, sometimes you got to go within. You got to take time for yourself. You got to take time to meditate, to build up your knowledge, to build
Mhm.
up, you know, your divine intuition, to be able to bestow it on people, help people out.
Right. Be quiet too.
Yeah.
You know, that's to be able to quiet your mind is one of probably the most essential things somebody should have in order to maintain their authenticity. Because if you're always giving yourself out or you're always going to a place where there's a group,
Hmm.
you start to become those things, which is
Yeah, yeah,
good. It,
yeah.
it could be good. It could also be bad. But the things that make you you, you know, you have to be able to go back to zero, go back to the datum. You know, you have to
Okay.
go back
Okay.
to your place of origin. That's why family parties are so great too, because you go back to the place you were as a child, adolescence. You go back to,
Oh, I see.
an old neighborhood, and you just get that feeling of okay. Because sometimes you really do forget who you are. You lose that power, that superpower of the individual. So to quiet the mind, sit with yourself, and just get back pieces of yourself, so you can go back out into the world. And in this era of just distraction, 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 I think that's why anxiety and depression is so prevalent, because people don't know how to hang out with themselves. They're too busy avoiding themselves. And now when you're going to sleep and your brain is like, oh, you're not doing anything right now? I've been trying to talk to you all day. They
Mm.
don't know how to have those conversations. So you really do have to make some time to just be able to sit with yourself, understand that the things that you acquired in life, or your hangout groups, that's not your identity. It might be a piece of you that you like, or you might like the way the attention you get or the respect that you get in these certain circles, but that's still not you. It could get taken away in 2 seconds. Um, as you grow older into adulthood, those circles change. The opportunity for growth in a certain job, you start to plateau. You got to be able to go back to yourself and like baseline it, you know?
So it sounds like you're talking about having an internal dialogue
Yeah.
with yourself. So, which I would imagine some people, you know, have that throughout the day. Some people have an internal dialogue. I mean, they talk about, you know, maybe what they should
It
say,
could
what
be
they should
hindered
text.
though. It could
Could be
it
hindered.
could I think it could be hindered based on the reassurance you get, or reassurance the lack of reassurance you get, because everybody wants to be reassured,
Hmm.
whether it's with their significant other,
Hmm.
friend groups, at the job. You want to see that your influence, your what's the other word I'm looking for, intention is acknowledged. You want that trophy for whatever you did,
But
for the day,
but
that
why
that
do you need the trophy
recognition,
for that?
because it shows that my efforts are being recognized.
Okay.
My intention, I've been at it here at this job, and I deserve a raise. That raise will give you the reassurance and the acknowledgement that yes, all of my efforts are recognized. A good meal at home, or a simple thank you for doing something that you did. Going out of your way to help a neighbor, put a fence up. If you walk away and he's like, see you tomorrow, without a thank you, those little things, they do have a way of making somebody bitter or appreciative. So the internal dialogue and just understanding I did what was right because it was right, not because I was going to get, attention for it. I was going to get acknowledged for it, or I didn't get my attaboy. The internal dialogue that no matter what the situation breeds or whatever fruit the tree bears, I know that I did what I was supposed to do, and I did it with the best intention, not for reward. It was the intention that went in there. I think that internal dialogue will help. I think time with yourself will help, because at the end of the day, I know what I'm doing is right. I'm striving to be the best version of myself. And I don't need anybody really to tell me that I'm doing a good job if I know that I'm doing a good job, And if your worth isn't recognized, then you got to change circles or put yourself in different situations. Empty cups don't pour. Finn, I'm done with my rant.
Okay, that was good. That was a good one. So then it's like saying that the internal dialogue is the part of you that where you're being recognized matters the most for yourself, and not
Your
for
creator.
others, and not the need for others. But is there a difference now between your internal dialogue, which means the dialogue between yourself, and the internal dialogue of your intuition, internal dialogue of divine providence, meaning, are there differences? How do we know? How do we know? Yes, I could know right now. I could talk to myself, about, or I could think about what I'm going to say next, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be listening that well if I was doing that. But in a way, you have to listen enough to be able to respond properly, right? But how do we now go to the communication? How do we know if we're truly being receptive to our dialogue or to the voice of God? How do you?
Well, it goes back to, Moses and the burning bush,
Okay.
right? What's your name? I am. That's it. Not I am Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
I am a rock. I am a star baseball player.
Okay.
Just I am. I am whatever the situation needs me to be. And if I was that, then it was a pretty successful day. And just understanding that you really don't have anything here. Be appreciative of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Be appreciative of the time spent. And it started and stopped there. And now it's a reset. If it's really not that hard to be successful. You just understanding putting yourself in the right situations, or putting yourself in a place where you're productive and industrious, putting yourself in a place where all the knowledge that you've acquired you can put back in.
I see.
There's I think I forgot what president said it, but a lot of people die at 35 and live till they're 79. They're just kind of repeating the same cycle, and then when your time is up on this planet, a lot of people live with regret. I could have done it this way. I could have done it that way. Internal dialogue is so important, again, to identity, because you are defining who you are, not the places you're at.
Okay.
Because what does it matter? I wrote it down in my notes the other day, and I liked it a lot. It resonated with me. New note. Where is
Internal dialogue right there.
it? All right. So the eternal gift of sin is death. The eternal gift of God is eternal life. And what I got from that was sin is diving deep inside, gluttony,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things that they say you shouldn't do. If you're living in the moment, which kind of contradicts what I was just saying about living in the moment, but if you're serving God, your story will be repeated over and over throughout life. If you're living in sin, and you're trying to capitalize on certain things, or you go into a situation with the intent to be celebrated at that time and place. You're going from party to party just to have a good time. You're going from week to week for Friday, and Saturday to go out and party, or you're gluttonous in nature. When you die, that's it. Or it was a good time. Let's try to relive it. You're trying to fill a bag that has a hole in it. It's always just going to be empty. But if you're living to serve, every time you leave a place, whether it was a good act or it was something where you were helping, your story is going to continue to live on and live on and live on. And even when you come back to these circles, you can have friends where you haven't seen them in 40 years, and they're like, you pick up right where you left off, because they don't know your actions, they know your character. They know that feeling of who you are and what you did. And there's plenty of people that I know. I don't live a perfect life at all. I try. There's times we slip, we come right back. But I know my character is always trying to do well. I try to help. I'm not sitting there trying to look at somebody like they're an opportunity. I go into most situations trying to make the best out of it, trying to create a life memory, and therefore you try to live an eternity that way. Look at all the few people that are remembered based on all the people who've ever lived in life. That's the goal in my opinion.
So it sounds like a legacy in a way, right? Or just you're gonna be, by their fruits they'll be known. So meaning
Right.
like that. So if you're just living, in God, and you're living with God, and you're living for God,
Creation.
then you could, yeah, exactly. If you're creating love and giving love and spreading love, then of course they're going to be talking about you, right? Or because you're inspiring people.
A lot of people, they pick the fruit from the tree. They don't want to water the tree. They don't want to hang around and prune the tree. They don't want to water the tree. They don't want to sit there when it's a seed and you have to, they want to be there at the end point when the fruits of the labor are being presented.
Yeah.
Or they pick the low hanging fruit. A lot of people do that, and that doesn't define anything, and it's not lasting. It's not something that people are going to be there during the hard times or the good times. They're only there for the times where it's fruitful. So just in my opinion, what'd you get from that quote before? I don't want to put too much of my thoughts.
Yeah,
behind
can you
it.
let's just read it one last time?
So it said, the eternal gift of sin is death. The gift of God is eternal life. So sin, again, is action, in my opinion. Sin is action. Going out there and not only that, but sin is also, it starts and ends with whatever that was. Where if you're living in God, that creative nature, it creates abundance, opportunity, endless fruitful days, and it creates endless memories. Like your time out on this planet may have stopped, but they're still talking about Jesus. They're still talking about George Washington. They're still talking about, not to put them in the same book, but time will speak of you when mouths can't.
Wow, yeah, this guy's got bars tonight.
That's a bar.
Time will speak of you
when mouths can't.
When mouths can't. Wow.
I'm gonna tattoo that one.
That's deep. No, you're right. It's just, I think it's all about what we learn. It's all about just living the righteous life. Live the righteous life.
Trying to, yeah.
And yeah, trying to, and it's not like living the righteous life just so we could, the time could speak about a name, But once again, by their fruits they'll be known. So
right.
If you're planting the tree, watering the tree, you're pruning the tree, and you're producing the fruits, the good fruits, people will know, and people like the good fruits, and they eat the good fruits, and they share the good fruits.
What was that? That thing is, humble yourself, and you will be venerated. That will stick with me forever.
Okay.
I believe it was something to that effect.
It connects to some royal arch symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably get into it offline, just for anyone,
Sounds
any
good.
viewers that maybe they haven't went through it yet. I want to, but I could definitely I'll get into it. So I think I remember what
Yeah.
it was. It's a part of the ritual, but it's what it's about: humility, right? Being humble. Those that are humble, that they get put in high places.
I mean, look at the guys that are in most positions that are in those positions not because of what they've done. Well, I can't say that. It's because what they have done, but also what they can do. Most of the time, they don't want the job, but they'll accept it because they were chosen for that.
Yeah.
Washington didn't want to be president. He thought it was done. He
Yeah, and
wanted to
that's why
celebrate life.
That's why he was the best person for the
Right?
job.
That humbleness,
Mm-hmm.
and he did it twice.
He's a servant.
2 terms,
Servant.
to serve. I'm able, maybe not so willing, but I'm able, and my honor won't let me bypass this opportunity for that. Really out there.
That's great. So that's why recently I went to the Grand Lodge of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Actually, is it in Philadelphia? And I got 3 books I wanted to maybe use sometime for.
You wanna cut the episode and we'll split it. We'll split it with that, or do you wanna end on that? Because I think we're about an hour and 16 in.
Okay, yeah. So on the next episode of New Atlantis, Days in the East, and Maldo's Magic, we're going to go into some quotations from George Washington and some other famous Masons.
Your Mr. Movie Phone voice is epic. I must shed light on that.
What do you mean, movie?
It's like you have a polished voice for presentation, and then I don't know how to explain it. It's good though. It's like when we were talking about brands. You gotta have a brand and that's imitatable.
Okay.
Because it's identity, 1, and 2, it's individualism, and for me at least, one of the most rewarding things is when somebody does something that you do that you didn't do, and you're like, oh, okay, it's working. Not that it's working because it's intentional, but it's almost like a checkpoint or a celebration. Like, oh, okay, I didn't know I did that, or I didn't know I said it like that, or when somebody copies a joke and it's a joke that you said.
Okay.
For me, it's humbling because it's like, wow, I'm on your mind, even though that sounds like vain a little bit. It's not. It's just, it's something that I took pleasure in because it's like, wow, there's some type of admiration that goes along with it.
Okay.
Because for me, that when I speak of people, if I'm speaking of you with a smile on my face, you brought some type of joy to my life. So if I said something or I have a little quirk that I do and you imitate it, it's something that you found funny, and it's humbling to know that I brought some piece of joy to somebody, So like when you say according to Kabbalah, or when you say give the presentation, the Maldo's Magic.
This is Maldo's Magic.
You know what I'm saying? The pause is epic, but
because it's in the silence. That's where the transmission, and that's where the being receptive to the spiritual voice happens in that silence.
I agree. So with that, we'll conclude this episode. If it's an episode, I might just chop it up because there's a couple things in there that were good for social media shorts.
It wasn't like we did high magic and that wasn't chopped out. So what could possibly chop out of this one?
We'll figure it out.
All right.
But serendipity is the word of the year. Are we bringing that into 2025? I think so.
I mean, if that's your true will, if that's what your true will is to bring.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in closing, enjoy our production.
Wow.